Ever wondered what the most common web application vulnerabilities are? Well, wonder no more. The Open Web Application Security Project, or OWASP, has done the hard work for you. They've compiled a list of the top 10 most common vulnerabilities found in web applications. This list, aptly named the OWASP Top 10, is a vital resource for anyone involved in securing online platforms. First on the list is injection. This occurs when an attacker sends malicious data to an interpreter via an application. It's a broad category that includes SQL, OS, and LDAP injection. The best defense against this is to use a safe API, which avoids the use of the interpreter entirely or provides a parameterized interface. Next up is broken authentication. This happens when session management and authentication functions aren't implemented correctly, allowing attackers to impersonate other users. To guard against this, make sure to implement multi-factor authentication and do not deploy with default credentials. The third vulnerability is sensitive data exposure. This occurs when an application doesn't adequately protect sensitive information like credit card numbers or authentication credentials. To prevent this, classify and encrypt all sensitive data. Next, we have XML External Entity. This vulnerability allows attackers to exploit poorly configured XML processes. To avoid this, use less complex data formats such as JSON and always validate, sanitize, and escape user input. The fifth vulnerability is broken access control. This happens when restrictions on authenticated users aren't properly enforced. To guard against this, deny by default, implement access controls, and disable web server directory listing. Moving on, we have security misconfigurations. This can happen at any level of an application stack and can give attackers unauthorized access to system data. To prevent this, keep all software up to date and use a strong server configuration. Number 7 on the list is cross-site scripting, or XSS. This occurs when an application includes untrusted data in a new web page without proper validation or escaping. To avoid this, use modern frameworks that automatically escape XSS and validate, sanitize, and escape user input. Next is insecure deserialization. This often leads to remote code execution. To guard against this, do not accept serialized objects from untrusted sources. The penultimate vulnerability is using components with known vulnerabilities. This happens when components run with full privileges, making it easier for attackers to take control. To prevent this, remove unused dependencies and features and continuously monitor for new vulnerabilities. Finally, we have insufficient logging and monitoring. This vulnerability allows attackers to maintain persistence and pivot to more systems. To avoid this, ensure all login, access control failures, and server-side input validation failures are logged with enough context for incident response. In summary, the most common web application vulnerabilities, as listed by OWASP, are injection, broken authentication, sensitive data exposure, XML External Entity, broken access control, security misconfigurations, cross-site scripting, insecure deserialization, using components with known vulnerabilities, and insufficient logging and monitoring. By understanding these vulnerabilities and implementing the recommended defenses, you can significantly increase the security of your web applications. Remember, a stitch in time saves 9 in